Hello, Black people. It's Eddie. Today, I want to talk about racism and how unnatural a thing it is, considering the fact there is only one race, one quote unquote race on Earth, which is the human race. I mean, we can talk about what else there is here, but that can be another conversation. But as far as people, there's only one. We're just different varieties of the same expression. And it is such a stressful state to live under all the time. And I can even remember being quite small and not understanding what was going on, but knowing that it was wrong. Recently, I heard a comedian, I don't remember his name, he said that he was a white man. He did not look like a white man. Even people who commented on his video said he wasn't a white man. But he said in his routine that he enjoyed being white. That he would, if he could go back and do it again, he would double up on it or something, he said. And then he said if he had a time machine, he would go back in time as a white man. But he said he would not go forward in time because he knew that eventually Black people were going to regain their position, and he didn't want any parts of that. And I believe that too. I do believe the world will flip back over and the quote-unquote so-called Black people, which I'm trying to stop saying that word, will be in their proper place. But for now, we live under this awful system of racism. And I try to understand it, and I've had conversations with people about it, some in different groups. Most of my conversations are obviously with people who look like me and have the same experience as me, and they understand. But from time to time, I want to know what other people think, and I've got a few people from different groups who are close enough to me that I will open those questions up to them. And even sometimes some people who are not so close to me. And this is the general gist of what I get. Oh yeah, that racism thing, it's a really bad thing. It shouldn't be happening. It's horrible how you people get exploited, and they lament on and on about the horrors of racism. And when the conversation is over, they go right back to exploiting our group. So people can lament it, but they understand, they're from a position where they're outside of it to a certain extent, if they are not the so-called Black people. They see it, they understand it, but they benefit from it. So they don't do anything to change it, because why would you change something that has been benefiting you and your people for 5 years? For 25 years, or for 500 years? Why would you change it? So it's just interesting to me that this is the world we live in, where people understand that there's a problem, yet do nothing to resolve it. And I say this to say the so-called Black man and the so-called Black woman are going to be the ones who have to step up and rectify this situation. And I listen to a lot of people who talk about what's going on and what we need to do and how we need to move forward, and even people who are getting upset and questioning, where are you? Why are you not changing things, talking to the so-called Black people? And I know I do what I can to make my life better and the lives of the people around me better. And my motto is, if I meet you, regardless of who you are, but especially if you're in my group, I will either leave you like I found you, but I will never leave you worse than how I found you. But there are some people, and I've had people like this come into my life, whose goal is to leave you worse than how they found you. But if nothing else, we can stop making the problem worse. even if we can't find a way to rectify it or to make things better, we can at least stop doing the detrimental things that make the so-called black people on planet Earth, our situation worse. And I just felt the need to put this out there and just say some things about it. I'm very interested in solidarity in our group. I'm very interested in unity within our group. And I understand that even if I stop saying the word black, it doesn't mean anybody else is. But I think we need to understand that the labels that we have been given as the so-called black people on planet Earth were not of our doing. Someone else attached those labels to us. Because being the first people to walk on the planet, why would we label ourselves other than, by whatever area we happen to be in? We wouldn't go and call ourselves colored, Negro, or African American, or any of these things. And one of the things I would like to do for myself, and I don't know if anybody else will do this, but we're Americans. If we're in the United States of America, the United States, however you want to call this country we find ourselves in, and you were born here, you are an American. You're not an African American. You're an American of African descent. And I think if we move away from some of those labels and really call ourselves what we are, Americans of African descent. And for all we know, we might be Americans of American descent, because from the history I've found, the original Native Americans in this country were the so-called black people. And the red man, from what I've heard, and I'm still researching this, the quote-unquote red man is actually the offspring of the Europeans and the Native Americans, which were the black people. Again, I'm still researching it. I'm just saying this, and I've seen it a couple of times. So I can't say it's 100% true. I can say that it does make sense to me. So it's funny to me, ironic to me, that here, if this information is true, and I kind of believe it is, that here we are, the so-called black people who were imported from Africa when we may not have been imported at all. We may very well be the descendants of the original people on this land. But anyway, so to me, racism doesn't make any sense for a couple of reasons, because yeah, we're all one quote-unquote race, the human race. But if all of the information I've read is true, this is our country, so how are people going to come into this country, take it, and then treat us like we don't belong here? So it's a lot to deal with. I don't know if I've said anything here that makes any sense to anybody, but the last thing I'll leave you with is, when you encounter a person or a situation, endeavor to leave them as you found them. And, and please don't make anything worse. Improve someone's situation if you can, but please don't make it worse, because that just drives the whole energetic mood down for everybody on planet Earth. So I think I've covered everything that was on my mind. Thank you for listening. Peace and love, black people.